My name is Devyn, Ballagh, 47367 848th Road, Amelia. My question is, from the information presented, as we looked at it, there was 34.4 or 34.3 miles of access parallel to county roads from Thedford to the eastern edge. Is that correct?
Yes, 34.4.
Okay. And about 25 miles of that is on the very eastern edge, and 6 miles of it or so was on Brewster on Highway 7. I think we discussed this at a previous open house. So there was a lot of this route that hasn't been examined because you said, well, that's private property. Until we have the right to access that land, we can't look at it. My question is, how many landowners did NPPD contact just to call and say, you know, there's about 15 miles in here that we can't look at. Would it be possible for us to come examine some of the routes so that you at least had a little bit of an idea? I just want to know how many landowners did Power Engineers or NPPD contact? You have all the information of the landowners. That's just my question.
I guess in general, and I'll turn it over to Al for more specifics, but that's really kind of where we are in the process right now. And really the next phase of the process is to start working with individual landowners and get a better view of their property and hopefully get the right to access their property and start talking more specifically about those issues.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a whole lot to add. That's exactly right. That's where we are. And then when we do go out and meet with you, that will then give us the opportunity to look more specifically so we can make local adjustments on the properties, things like that, to best accommodate the line.
So in other words, this route was pretty much predetermined that was where it was going to go through, because we're crossing a very fragile ecosystem, the Sandhills, that by your own admittance, you haven't ever put a line like this through the Sandhills. So knowing that much of the route was in the Sandhills, my question is, wouldn't it have been worth doing a little bit of investigative work to even see, with such poor access and large amount of land that you couldn't even look at? Wouldn't it have been worth at least seeing if landowners would voluntarily? At Burwell in the May hearing, it was entered into the comments that were supposedly dispersed to the people that needed to know the information, that if anybody from NPPD wanted to come look at the land, that we were willing to let them do that. And Mr. Byerman, you drove up our road, you know where we live, and if my dad wouldn't have stopped on the road to talk to you, you guys drove up the road, you were turned around and coming right back. And if that information, obviously I don't think it was relayed to you, but if that information would have been relayed to you, that'd have been a great time to examine the land, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, we could have had an opportunity. There were other occasions where we did. I'm not sure how many miles we looked at, but there were other times where we did look at land. When we go through this process, we get the best aerial imagery we can get, and there's a whole lot of factors that go into this, homes and all those things. When we first start out with this whole thing, we're looking at 7,200 square miles. Is that right? Yeah. And so we do have to start somewhere and keep working down. Now we are at that stage where we got what we think is the best route with the information we know. And now we're at that stage where we do want to go out, we want to sign right of entry agreements and then get a better look at property. And like I said, then we can, depending on what we see, we can make some localized adjustments as necessary to get through in the best manner that we can.
Okay. Another question I have, and I don't think we touched on it today. I think in a previous open house you touched on the shelter belts. There's about 40 acres of shelter belts in this route. I don't know if any of you thought it was cold today, but I fed cows behind trees today that are in an area where you want to come down the section line. There's another shelter belt to the north, and so something's going to have to give. There's a calving shed there, and that's where we draw our livelihood, is from cattle and from calving. And those trees, that can be the difference between a dead calf and a live calf. And so I'm curious how you're going to compensate for trees that were planted with love and respect from the generations before us, knowing that that was an essential part of our ranch. How are you going to compensate and make up for tearing out those trees?
Well, the first thing I want to say, again, this is part of the localized routing process. Typically what we do when we get in a situation like this is actually we'll talk to you and we'll talk about making a slight jog around those trees so the trees can be saved. That's what we would prefer to do. We know you guys want the trees to stay as well, so that's what we prefer to do. Other locations that we run across, I guarantee you, I mean, we've got 220 miles of line here. We're going to have some guys saying, I wish those trees would have been gone the last 30 years. Please get rid of them. Again, that's that local or that one-on-one discussion with you to find out what is the best way to get through.
Okay.
If we've got a situation where the trees do go, then we do compensate for them. We'll have a tree appraiser go out. They look at the height, the width, the shape of the shelter belt, what it's protecting, all those things, and then come up with whatever the compensation should be then on that.
Okay. Do you guys have any idea why sometimes a feed yard will partner with a rancher on a pen of calves? Does anyone have an idea of why that is? A feed yard will partner with a rancher because that way the rancher knows that the feed yard is going to do their best to look after that pen of cattle because they take ownership in it. They take pride in it. They're going to check those cattle and they're going to feed them, and they want it to be a win-win situation. You are not proposing to take ownership of this land. You want to borrow our land, the private property that we've worked for and the generations before us have worked for. You want to come in and go through the heart of our ranch, devalue our land, take a lifetime easement that'll never go away, and you want to pay us a one-time payment of 80%. I would like on the record to know that your position, again, that transmission lines through the heart of a multi-generational ranch does not devalue the entire property, because that's what's been relayed up to this point. And I would like to know if that's still the position of NPPD, that there's no drop in property values for the entire ranch with the addition of transmission lines, not following a road, just going straight in a straight line through the heart of a Sandhills Ranch.
Again, that's the, I think what I said the other day when we were talking about it was, again, that's the experience, our experience, that's what it tells us. But these are discussions we have to have with the appraiser when we get the appraiser on board to look at this stuff. But I can just tell you what I've seen so far, that is a correct statement. We have not seen a devalue of the property. It is a perpetual easement, but again, the example I gave, there would be 4 poles in a mile. So you got, just 4 locations. You can still farm through it, you can ranch through it, run cattle through it, all that kind of stuff. And so that property is still being used by you. And so our experience, again, that's just what it's told us so far, that this is just what I have seen through all the projects I've gone through. I just haven't seen a devaluing of the property. That's just been my experience.
Okay. Well, I'm a 5th generation rancher, as I don't know if I mentioned that here. Our ranch was homesteaded in 1885, and every generation has added to that ranch, and with pride has built that ranch up, made improvements, and passed it on to the next generation. That's something that we've worked hard for, 7 days a week, to build that ranch. And the sand from those hills runs in my veins because I care about that ranch. I live in an isolated area. There's no traffic. We know everyone that goes up our road. And to think that you want to come in and dissect the sandhills, a fragile environment where there's no access, it's not the people that are using the large amounts of power. I don't think that's right. And so I would like to go on the record as saying that I am in direct opposition of this project and the proposed route through the Sandhills. And I think I speak for myself and my entire family. Thank you.